Hello and welcome to Coffee Conversations Live at the International Roofing Expo on the Soundstage, sponsored by SRS. This is one of our favorite things of every year at IRE. We bring together the best of the best to talk about what's going on in the industry. And first day, always our contractors. Second day, tomorrow, we'll be bringing on manufacturers, distributors, technology, consultants, and we're going to ask them the same questions. We're going to see what's hot and get the different perspectives. So I am so honored. I'm Heidi Ellsworth, president of Rivers Coffee Shop, and I'm very honored to have this panel here today. So we're going to start with some introductions, and we're going to start right here with Josh. Josh, can you introduce yourself? Tell us about your company and a little bit about you.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Josh Martin. I am the former owner and current operator of a company called Great Roofing and Restoration. So we're currently in Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Denver, Colorado, and soon to be Raleigh, North Carolina. So we were actually acquired by the Omnia Exteriors platform in August of 2024. I have been in the industry now since 2012. Prior to that, I actually worked for Abercrombie & Fitch, so Columbus, big retailer. If you guys have seen the Netflix video, there's unfortunately some truth to that. But yeah, so that's where I came from. And I would have never thought I would be in roofing. Yeah, so yeah.
I love it. Hey, you made an upgrade.
I did, for sure.
There you go. I love it. Well, welcome to the Soundstage, and thank you for being here.
Appreciate it.
Ani.
Hi. So I'm Ani Diaz, owner of Northern Arizona Roof Services in Flagstaff, Arizona, and then Arizona Roof Services in Phoenix, Arizona. So it's been doing this for 40 years as a commercial and residential contractor. And, I'm quite the anomaly that I actually enjoy doing this. You know, so many of the veterans that I talk to go, why do you stay in the business and da-da-da? Well,
you like it.
There's just something about, I like getting up there. I like everything. I like the people.
Yeah.
And, fixing problems.
That's cool. Talk a little bit about your mix, commercial, residential, everything.
So when we opened this new division in Flagstaff, Arizona, it's in the mountains, and I'm originally from Illinois. So you get so used to the weather and having, being a sustainable business when you're in other parts of the country other than Arizona, because the rest of the state is warm all the time.
Right.
So many of our customers just kept talking about going to Northern Arizona, and it is somewhat of more of a sustainable market, probably the most in the state because of the snow and the hail and the rain. And for us going there, we really had no intentions on being in the residential business, even though I've always dabbled in the residential business. It was primarily for commercial. So at the residential side, just with really no effort at all, just kind of took off. And that's how we really got into the mix of the residential. But, if you're doing residential, sooner or later, you're going to roof somebody's house that owns a nice business or some nice buildings. And, and really that's what got me into the commercial. And it was probably late 80s, early 90s. I was selling residential houses, and I happened to roof the guy's house that owned the AutoZone franchise in Phoenix, and he's like, hey, do you do commercial? Yeah. The next thing I know, I'm like, why am I screwing around with a $2,500 house when I can be selling a $30,000 or more, commercial job? And so, but I love them both.
That's a story I think we hear a lot from a lot of different people. I love it. Welcome. We are so happy to have you. Thank you. And Brad, please introduce yourself, hometown.
Yeah, Brad Belden, San Antonio, Texas. So welcome to San Antonio. We brought the cold weather for everybody, so you won't open up a shop here.
Thank you.
It was 75 the day before we got here. Now it's single-digit cold, and I'm wearing two jackets.
I know. I was
still cold.
Say, you got the jackets going.
So third-generation family business. Been doing this. I started when I was 12, but got out of college, spent 2 years in D.C. working for a contractor, been back home with the family for 37 years, and we have a fourth generation in the business as well. We're licensed or registered in 45 states, so we do a lot of work all over the country. Not residential, we only do residential within 60 miles of the office for very similar reasons, right?
Yep.
It's most people either involved in a business or own a business, and that's pretty much why most of us are in the residential business.
Right.
But happy to be here.
I love it. I love it. And Brad, you've been so involved for so long. You also, I just want to say real quick, it was your project that is going to be the student competition for the Roofing Alliance tomorrow with all those young, amazing students that are going to be here. So thank you for all the work that you and everything you give back.
Well, I will tell you that project was one of the biggest challenges we've ever had in the company.
Oh, wow.
And it's just a hotel, right?
Yes.
But you never know, especially in the commercial side, there's so many unforeseens or intangibles that don't come into play until they do come into play. And you talked about solving problems. All right, that's what most of us do for a living is we solve problems, and you got to solve them quickly.
Right.
You have to make instantaneous decisions based on the knowledge that you have. And sometimes you don't have a lot of time to make that decision. You got to live with it forever. And I think that adds a lot of the stress in this industry. And you only got one shot at getting it right, and most of us don't get it right the first time.
Yeah.
And one of my philosophies, and whether it's in this business or not, is, and we teach our team members, is every day we want to get better by 1%. What did we do right yesterday? What did we do wrong yesterday? What are we going to do today to get better by 1%? Seems easy, right? But as you get through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 1% compounded daily gets harder and harder, and then you start micromanaging yourself, and you think you're being micromanaged, but really you're not.
Right.
What we want you to do is to get better at what you do so that you can provide a better customer experience for our clients. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to want to be better.
Yeah. But that's one of the great things I think about this industry. And then that's really that there is that kind of passion and care. So thank you. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.
It's awesome. Lori, please introduce yourself and tell us about your company.
Well, I'm Lori Moore, and I'm going to add to this addiction thing we're talking about here, because we are fixers. That tends to be what we do, and it's an addictive thing almost, because you're saying, well, I can still make it better, and it can be even better. It can always be better, because none of us are ever perfect. Not perfect companies. We're never going to have perfect knowledge in the industry. Things are always going to change, and so it's really great to have this conversation to talk about, like, where are we at in all this change and uncertainty, that it doesn't seem like where is the absolute truth.
Right.
That's
right.
kind of where we are right now, it seems like, as a society. But anyway, I am from Peoria, Illinois. The company that I am running and own is 4 years old now.
Wow.
Been around a while. We service the area in Illinois.
You look good for 104.
Thank you. We service the area from St. Louis to Chicago. We don't go into either one of those cities, but there's a lot of space in between there. So we tend to have a very diverse business as far as types of work we do, because we just service the whole area.
Right.
There's no space for a niche in that area. You have to be able to do everything. So we do a lot of historical work. We do slate and tile. We do custom copper work. We do big industrial work.
That's awesome.
We've done it all, basically. About any material that there is, I think we've probably used it.
No.
And we maintain a lot of tradespeople, a lot of different trades.
Right.
Because of that, we have to have our own, because we just don't have a big collection of people to draw from.
That's so cool. And you are currently president of MRCA?
Yes, I am current president of the Midwest Roofing Contractors Association.
And the first woman?
I believe so.
Yes. Lori and I have been working together about National Women in Roofing or Women in Roofing initiatives for many, many years. So,
yes, it's a really great opportunity to kind of put that perspective on the whole association, kind of not just roofing technical safety, but I mean, this is kind of where some of the mental health focus comes from, I think, caring about the person, being creative about how you place people in your organization and looking for their highest value, not just, well, this is what they've always done. Right. I think that's part of the broadened perspective we're seeing in the industry.
Yeah, we're seeing that across the board. In fact, that's one of the trends that I would say is out there, especially NRCA is very focused on that right now, too.
So, it's kind of cool because we've got a couple of women in our business as well. And for me, being a veteran in the business, we do kind of get into this is the way it's always done. And the women that are in our business bring a different perspective to it. And I think, again, for me anyway, and even people that I worked for growing up, You know, it was just yellers and screamers and do this and do that, and you know, and they'll go, do you really want to say that, honey? Maybe you should think about doing this, or maybe you should think about doing that, or maybe we should think outside the box. I'm like, that's great, because it does really kind of refocus, at least for me, to think other ways. And it's awesome. My daughter's in the roofing business as well. She works for SRS. And so it's just, I really admire that we're seeing more.
Brings a little bit of balance.
It's freaking awesome.
I just want to comment that I think one of the reasons the women are bringing a non-traditional view of things is because we aren't traditional to this industry.
I would agree.
Ourselves. And so we look for that in other people, I think.
Yeah. That's cool.
I agree. That's so cool. Okay, well, let's get started. Let's look. Yeah.
Raise his hand.
No, I was waving.
Oh.
Okay. There's so many people going by. It's so
Chosen.
My city.
Chosen.
It's like the mayor.
Yeah.
You gotta wave to everybody. Welcome to San Antonio. Come back.
We're being watched by Rudy.
I know.
But don't open an office here.
Checking this out.
You're welcome anytime to spend money here.
Okay, let's start out with major trends. What are some of the major trends you're seeing that are shaping the roofing industry in 2025? And especially, you know, are these trends that are coming from 2024 into 2025, or some new things that you're seeing? So, Lori, let's start with you. What are some of the things that you're seeing that are really influencing us going into 2025?
Well, I think with all the different technology, apps, AI, all the stuff swimming around us, what I think is funny is that all of a sudden face-to-face communication is a way to differentiate yourself.
That's true. Yeah.
It just kind of is back to basics, you know?
Yeah.
That's going to be different.
It's the relationships. Yeah, and boy, are we seeing that out on the trade show right now.
Oh, yeah.
I know. There are so many people out there.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you're seeing, Brad?
And I think the key thing, and nobody wants to talk about, is immigration.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it continues to be a problem that's been around as long as I've been in the industry. Maybe not as long as I've been in the industry, but quite some time. And we both have issues in our states with immigration. And I think that, you know, for those of you that played by the rules, we've been doing E-Verify since the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. People walk up to our office and there's a big sign that says, we E-Verify, and oh, by the way, we also drug test, right?
Yeah.
And then they look and they're reading it, and then they walk away, right? And there's not going to be anybody left to do the jobs. We can all be great salespeople, but if we can't find people to do the work, we're going to have a problem. Yeah. And I don't know the answer to it. I think the H-2B program, we've been part of that for 17, 18 years. It's a great program, but they don't have enough people in the program to handle the needs that we all have. And as Reed spoke this morning, it's a numbers game, right?
Right.
If I mean, I had 4 kids, I did my part, right? Yeah. And so, but if we're not having enough kids, you know, if people aren't having enough children, we don't have enough people to do the jobs. And even by my office, we're losing restaurant after restaurant because there's nobody to staff the restaurants.
Right.
The food's great, the service, everything's great, except one person can't handle 10 tables by themselves. And then when that happens, everybody's complaining the service stinks, right? It's not the employer that's having they're not doing it intentionally. They just can't hire anybody.
Right. And it's everywhere. That's the thing that I think is so interesting, because in our little town in Central Oregon, we have restaurants closing there too. And we have the roofing companies looking for labor, looking for skilled labor. And I think it's everywhere. And when you start looking at immigration, we need this.
We need a reliable system.
Yes.
That vets individuals that want to come here and, as Reed said this morning, have that American dream.
Right.
And do the jobs nobody else wants to do. The jobs are there.
Yeah.
Everybody
Absolutely.
wins. In the H-2B program, they're putting hundreds of millions of dollars of taxes. They're paying in hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes every year, and they get zero. Yeah. They never get a nickel taken out. Everybody here wins.
Yeah.
You know, everybody that's in America wins, and there's just got to be a better answer than for both sides to be fighting over this year after year. We've been fighting over it for 25 years.
Yes. Yes.
You know, somebody just needs to stand up and fix the problem.
And now it's escalating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so where do we go? And so, Eric, well, you're right. We got 2 states here that are border states. What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, exactly the same thing. We make the immigration thing, I think, personally a little more difficult than it needs to be. They are the workers. I mean, just run an ad in the paper. Who's going to show up if they show up? Who's going to show up to work? We need to come up with a system that's a little bit easier to employ, immigrants.
Yeah.
It's short because people aren't.
But if you paid them 25% more, would they show up? I don't think they would.
I don't think they would.
They're not going to. You just can't.
Saving my speech for when we got down there, but I mean,
sorry.
No, that's okay. That's
Let's
okay.
go. Just move to it. Yeah.
So I was in Phoenix here just recently, and I'm listening to. I try not to listen to too much talk show because it makes my pressure go up and my ears start burning, and I want to rip the stereo out. Makes me angry, and I don't even have anger problems. That's and both sides. So it all sides. Let's just say that. But anyway, they were talking literally about this and talking about how they're stealing Americans' jobs, and that's what just kind of pushed me over the edge. And so, and I never called in ever. And I'm like, this guy's full of crap that they're stealing Americans' jobs and that we're underpaying them. Really? Nobody's underpaying. I shouldn't say nobody because I don't know everybody's business. But in our business, it is. How are we attracting people? We're paying more money for them to come. And to think for a minute that we're paying immigrants less than we're paying somebody else, strictly speaking for myself and every other roofing contractor that I know in our state, is just wrong. I mean, it just is. Our laborers are starting at $25 an hour that knowing nothing. I mean, that was unheard of when we were younger. So to say that they're stealing our work, it's just not.
And at $25 an hour, how many people come in every day?
Every day, very few.
Right.
But yeah. But we do get them. The good thing that we are seeing on the trend side is that we're seeing tradespeople coming over from different industries. And I never really thought that I would see that, which gives us the opportunity to train right, as opposed to getting somebody that's been trained wrong.
Right.
I've hired several framers. I've hired several concrete guys that just want to make a change in their business, and they even make significantly more than the roofers do. And but I got to say that their attention to detail by far has been greater than most of the roofers that we employ. So I've been impressed there. But of course, you've got to train them. And it's not easy to convert somebody to be on a roof.
Yeah,
it's just not, and you can work on flat roofs, you can frame, you can go up and down stairs. But when you put somebody on a sloped roof or even a flat roof, baking in the heat with no shade, no nothing, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
And so it's not for everybody.
Yeah. And that's one of those things. Skilled labor is something that's coming from 2024 to 2025. Immigration, these things are not going away. Josh, what are you seeing trend wise?
So the policy from the government, you don't really know what they're doing. So we had a customer 2 weeks ago kind of freaking out. It was a multi-year project with wood shake. Well, that product's made in Canada and it comes from Canada. So they were concerned about a 25% increase on the cost of the product. So we ended up writing it up in anticipation of that happening. They were nice enough to do it. Yep. Had another project that the funding for it is through HUD, and it was frozen. So we were supposed to start that project next month. They think it's opened back up. So there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation. There's real clarity, and it's things that maybe we wouldn't even thought about.
Right.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know what? That's interesting. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of the things I actually heard during National Women in Roofing Day too, is a lot of minority businesses, whether that's veterans, women, ethnic, are concerned because, and with federal work, they're like, this may go away. Yeah. Our whole business is
totally out of business.
Yeah, our whole business is built around this. And that's causing so much, and that's a bummer, I think.
I agree.
Causing uncertainty in a market that we have no matter what they do, throw at us, COVID, material shortages, everything else, we keep going. And we will go through this too.
Well, it'll be interesting to hear what the suppliers say about those things too, because we had a chat about that yesterday. And they don't really know either. Because
But they did say that 98% of their product that was manufactured was installed in how much time? It was ridiculous how quickly it was installed.
Yeah. I mean, it's the business is still there. It's going.
Well, you talk about the sheetrocker. How many times in a lifetime will that sheetrocker have the opportunity to hang that sheetrock in a house?
Yeah.
Once?
Yeah.
And in a roof, they could roof it 3 or 4 times, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And depending on some markets, Denver or whatever, Dallas, you could roof it that many times in a year, right?
Yeah.
And that's really, the trend for us is it just kind of happened that we started getting people applying from other trades, and we just kind of went, maybe we're on to something here. I interviewed a young man 2 days ago that's a bus driver. And,
why not?
I mean, he came to us.
So are you recruiting them, or how are they're kind of organically coming to you?
Yeah, and he called, and I blew him off. I mean, you're a bus driver, really? You're going to get on a roof? And he kept calling, and he's like, oh yeah, I drive the bus for the city, and I'm driving by this job, and I see you guys up there working all the time, and and he just kept calling, and I kept blowing him off. And so he called again, and finally I said, well, why don't you come in for an interview? And so I interviewed him. He never worked construction in his life, and he just goes, I just think it's neat to be out there, and I have a real interest in, and so I just painted this really ugly, it is an ugly picture because it's roofing, right? I mean, it's hard, it's dirty, it's, you're wet, you're cold, you're what, all the above. And
then it starts over tomorrow.
Yeah. And he's like, no, that just sounds great to me. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know. And I still haven't offered him a job, and I probably won't.
You should, because he'll probably be on this stage in a couple of years. That's kind of what's happening.
Yes, but, with today's safety, and, it's a whole nother topic, but, you start hiring somebody that's really not familiar with the trades at all. It's one thing to climb a ladder. It's a whole other thing to step off the ladder onto the roof, and step off the roof onto the ladder. So that gets a little touchy when you start, really getting somebody that's not from the trades at all.
The trains, yeah. That's interesting. Lori, what are you seeing?
I think we're seeing a shift in the culture and how the culture perceives the trades. I think that's been happening. I think there's more trade schools. Mm-hmm. The kids coming out of high school are more interested in working in the trades. There's a lot less push to go to college. I think the attitude in our younger people is, I hate that I'm saying younger people, though. I thought I was one.
We all were at one point.
Yeah. But there's really a shift there, like, oh, what's the point in paying for college? I can go to work now and start earning now. And they're seeing that these positions in roofing companies pay well, and they can support a family and do all the things maybe they want to do in this career path. They're also seeing that it is a career path, and I think that's something really important that we're seeing results from. People from other companies or people in the area know that other people in our company used to work in the field, and now they're superintendents and they're project managers and they're estimators, and they've seen these people up through our company, and that's attractive to people.
Definitely.
I think that, kind of working on being a training machine as a company and looking to always keep raising people to their highest level of value, whether it's within your company or outside your company. I've helped people find jobs being in a different trade because that's where they wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not really important what the company wants. It's really important to support what they want. And once you see that, it translates to them that you care, that the company cares. Because we're willing to train and spend his time with you, even though we know this is temporary. That's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something else for you, But that goes a long way. And it's very attractive. And people are drawn to it.
I do agree that there is more of a prestige with the trades these days. I was in North Carolina a couple weeks ago, and the Da Vinci rep who runs that territory, his daughter went into welding, and she absolutely loves it. She actually makes a lot of money, which I would have had no idea, and we were kind of talking about that. It's sort of that same idea.
We have a father-daughter on a same career.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's right.
Father sons before, but
Yeah, the daughters. That's
So
cool.
my whole career, I've worn a tie.
Yeah.
And I only know one other person, Hap Espenshade.
that's true.
Hap and I are the only two that I ever see. I haven't seen another person here today wearing a tie other than Hap. And it's because Hap and I firmly believe of trying to raise that level of the perception and maybe the cultural shift to be different going forward, because I've always felt that we were a step above or a step below a used car salesman in the eyes of the public. And I don't want to be that.
Right.
I want to be a professional service provider who happens to sell or service roofing for a living, right? And to me, that's a difference from being a roofer.
I've seen a shift. And I mean, 30 years of being with manufacturers and now with the coffee shop for the last 10. I have seen a shift and it kind of goes to what you're saying. People are coming from other trades because they're seeing the shift in the professionalism, roofing respect, and was exactly what Lori is saying too, is that's kind of the trick. And that what we're hearing a lot, same trends, is that people, we have a labor shortage, so they get to pick where they go, and they're going to the companies that have good culture, good training, and good opportunities.
yes. And so you want to look good. You want your group on the roof. You want them to look professional. You want them to act professional because this is part of your company image.
Mm-hmm.
Your trucks that are driving all over town with your letters or your name of your company. And
I feel like I need to go change real quick.
Well, and that's just it.
Yeah, I just wanted to wear a tie at Abercrombie, so I was like, not doing that here either.
So, we're talking about being honest. I mean, that's really what got me in the roofing business. So it was 1984. So still in high school, my buddy on the wrestling team's uncle owned a roofing company. So it kind of just started just like, hey, do you want to come out and help me load a roof? Sure. What was minimum wage then? $3.35 an hour, and you could make $9 an hour to go load a roof. And so anyway, so that just kind of materialized. But I got to meet his uncle, and his uncle showed up every day with a tie, every day. And he had started as a roofer. His dad was a roofer. His grandfather.
39 years in a tie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know Floyd at the time from anybody. And I asked him as time went on. I'm like, you wear a tie, and he would come up on the roof, so I'm learning, I'm training to be a roofer, and he'd come on the roof dressed just like that. He'd have a suit jacket on and a tie, nice shoes, and he'd get right down on his knees and go, this is how you do it. Never a wasted move. And so as the time went on, he became a mentor to me because I'm like, he's driving a nice truck. He's got a nice house and his family. And, I'm going to college and I'm kind of going, look at this. And I'm looking at the estimators that are working there and I'm going, this guy's got a nice truck.
Yeah.
And so, his brother, Mike, he drove a Porsche with a custom-made ladder rack on the back, and he had the old wooden estimator ladders that he collapsed down. And I thought that was a little extreme, but hey, anyway, the point is it attracted me to stay in the business, and I agree with you because every day, so many times I wore a sport coat and a company shirt, and whatever, and it does inspire the people around us to want to be a part of that, but not have their opinion of me to just be, an owner that doesn't know anything because I'm wearing a sport coat or a nice pair of boots or whatever, and then just doing things like this. So we talked about that on the interview here this morning, was to bring your team along and make them feel that they belong, that you want them there, because so many over the years, as we've grown up in this business, you see, the owners coming and maybe not part of the team. What's your team saying? Oh, it must be nice to go do this. And so when you start involving them, they really take an interest in the business and they care. And I think that's the part of the business that we miss anymore. We've all gotten to the point where we are because we care. We want to put a good roof on. We want to look good. We wanted this. We wanted that. And so many of the people don't care. Even so, if you can engage them to get them to care.
And it's all about the people. I tell you what, that's what it kind of comes down to.
Yeah, they say there's a really small percentage of people who really, you're talking about they care and they're driving, that's a very small percentage.
It is.
And there's the people who are trying not to do anything.
Yep.
There's a small percentage of them, and then there's these people in the middle, and they could go either way. And there's things that can influence that, So I think what we're talking about, when we're talking about professionalism, we're talking top down, we're talking throughout the whole company, and we're talking about it's a matter of pride. Yeah, if you do, each person and what they do every day, what they produce, they can look at that and go, look what we did today. Yeah. That's very visual, and I think people are proud of the work they do, and want customers to see that it's good for them, it's a good experience for them, and sometimes we all need feedback about what that means, and are we open to listening to that and taking that feedback and going, oh, I really appreciate that criticism because I can take that and use it to make a positive change.
And customers are doing a lot more research. So they are having expectations, yes, and communication.
That's dangerous.
And this kind of leads to another topic that's on here about the increased responsibility of management. Like, all this translates into more and more and more things for management to track. Yeah. There's like with safety, like we're expected to show proof that every day we're meeting about safety, daily toolbox talks. We're showing proof of unannounced visits by management, and just all these things that we're having to track and manage, including how do we look, how do we act. Like every minute it seems like it's just getting more and more that way. And there's regulations that are put in place that put us in that box.
Right.
Absolutely.
From our customers, from our government, from lots of directions. It's insane. Like, if you think about having to do what we do now 30 or 40 years ago, you couldn't possibly do it.
Well, and that's really the technology that is enabling all this.
Yeah.
Brad, you were going to say?
Well, I was going to swing to the technology, because without the technology, you can't do all those things.
But now we're expected to do it.
And but part of the problem, part of the problem is that the clients aren't necessarily on the same technology platform that you're on. So we subscribe to about 25 different platforms.
Yeah.
And you pay your membership for that platform, but you can't pass on that cost, right? The customer doesn't understand it, right? They insist that you be on this platform.
Wait, you're not passing on that cost?
I wish we could.
Okay, talking that way.
Yeah, but the problem is that you got to become proficient in multiple disciplines, and then you have to train your personnel. So it's really, really difficult. But I mean, you think about it. You have, Informa said this morning, 7 miles, 10 football fields, 600 booths.
Yeah.
And I walked the floor this morning just to see if I could do it in an hour. It's kind of hard, right? Because somebody's going to stop. Yes.
Did you get it done?
I wanted to see if I could walk it, but
You didn't talk to anybody.
I didn't talk
You
to
just put your head down.
and I put my badge inside.
He just waved.
But I wanted to know. But I wanted to see how much AI and technology had come into play, and you don't have to be in the technology section to see it.
No.
It's on every aisle, everywhere, and that's part of the cultural shift is it's not a boring industry anymore.
It's very sophisticated, I think, now compared to what it was.
I know.
Well, I agree with you, what you said earlier, Lori, talking about it, differentiating yourself with the technology. To me, it's very frustrating. And I've been fighting it as long as I could possibly to stay away from the AI and still trying to keep it somewhat simple. I mean, because it just gets, it's overwhelming.
It is. There's a lot.
If you allow it to be.
There's so many choices. It's like, and it's kind of like letting your need drive the usage. Like, well, we need a better way to do that. Let's see what there is and find it and what works best with what we already have, instead of going out there and trying to do all the stuff that's available. It's impossible.
Yeah. Well, but you look at our business. So we're all veterans here in our business. You look at our business, the way we grew up, we didn't have any of that stuff. And here we are successful.
Yeah, we had a black rotary dial phone.
Yeah, Rolodex.
I walked into book bags full of manila folders. Just went into an office. I'm like, what are you doing?
Sell work, you produce work, and you keep score.
Yeah.
It's still the same, right?
Yeah.
That's all we did growing up.
Yeah.
Well,
and just
and then it used to be on a paper napkin, a handshake.
Yeah.
And now what? We have hundreds
Contracts.
of legal contracts, and we're supposed to be lawyers on the side now too.
Yeah.
So that we can know when to not agree to something.
Right. You're putting through it.
There's a lot.
It is, and there's those people out there that, I mean, they're almost looking for ways, to get around it, and the legal
They know how to get around it.
and the legal terminology that gets involved in all of these things. It's so hard to even write a proposal because
And it's changing all the time, so you have to keep up with the education.
Right. It's everything.
Because something new is going to pop up and you're not going to know about it unless you go
To do it.
and find the education.
I know.
and it's difficult to even get our manufacturers behind that. Some of them are great to get behind it. If you have a problem on a job and maybe your contract didn't cover you and you're reaching out to the manufacturer for support, some of
That's
them
called the cost of education.
some of them are great. Some of them not so much. We've got a couple
That's differentiating everybody too.
Absolutely.
And Josh, I want to pull you into this because Omnia is national, and you guys are using technology. You're bringing it all together. You've been dealing with M&A. You're kind of like in the middle of everything.
There's a lot going on. So with us, we're doing a full integration. So I can't get too in depth on what we're doing because I'm not allowed to tell all the secrets. But pulling all these different businesses together was a challenge.
Right.
There's 11 different companies, and I think 9 CRMs. And if you think of it at their level, not just our level, you're trying to get data and try to understand what's going on in the business, sales-wise, and then on the back end with the financials, it's crazy. So the way that I've tried to explain it to our people is that way, to make them understand what they need and how they need to get it, and say, would you like to learn how to use 9 CRMs to make all this work, or do you want to be a part of this that's plugged in?
Hey.
So it's a lot.
And bringing it all together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the technology part of it. And to your point earlier, keeping up with it. Because it's changing with AI now. Everything's changing.
Everything's changing, and it's fast. And I will say, when you bring these smart people together, because they have, lots of funds to bring the right people in, it's very quick how they can do it. It's almost scary, to be honest, how fast they're putting things together. And we're going through all these different testing phases, and we're rolling things out in a couple weeks that we're in development.
Don't you think whether you're involved in PE or not, it's helping the industry because
Absolutely.
it's also showing you the things that you can accomplish and saying, okay, wait a minute. If I'm going to sell to private equity,
Yep.
they're going to put these things in place, and you have already identified the things that you would change.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do that today anyway?
Yeah, and I would help anybody that has a question about that.
But I mean,
if I would have known then what I know now.
Increasing the professionalism of the
Absolutely.
industry because they've entered the industry.
Totally agree. Yeah. And it makes things work and make sense. Because some of the stuff like accounting, does everybody know what GAAP accounting is? Probably not. Like the way that they do things and look at things is not how everybody does it. But that's where it's all going and becoming more professional to that point for sure.
Yeah. You're right. It's redefining our industry. Was it really?
Positively. Absolutely.
Positively, yeah. Across the board, it's really, and we see it on
Just in time.
already.
Yeah, everything about it is interesting.
Yeah, and it's not just on the contractor level; it's the distribution level, it's the manufacturing, and how we're really working through those mergers. Also, I mean,
Well, you're not down to 3 major players and then regional players,
right?
right? Who'd have thought that 10 years ago?
Yeah, well, if you talk to Dan about the whole SRS thing, the game changer for them was becoming a technology company that happens to, sell shingles and supply people. That's what changed it for them, and that's how they became what they are. And so our leadership's actually kind of consulting with him to understand that formula, and that's what we're trying to do with the technology is wind it up and make it work. That way we can plug it in. Yeah, that's it. You just plug it in instead of what CRM.
Fortunately, I'm not sure that's technology that ever be able to put a robot at a 12 on 12 roof.
Yeah.
That is true.
Although
They tried. Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure
It's real slow.
it's going to be really slow, and it's going to be I'm going to be retired before that becomes a player.
It's more like a printer. It's like you put the shingles in.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like your
They'll start shipping it out in panels, and all we got to do is just assemble it like a puzzle.
Yeah, but you and I'll both be retired. He'll be our age then.
Yeah. We've been hearing a lot more about pre-assembled roofs, and that they're just going to show up, and like instead of bundles, it's going to show up in 6 or 7 pieces. Get put on the roof and put together. Who knows? I mean,
It solves trucking issues too, right? I mean, there's a lot of things it solves.
Yeah, it really does. It's kind of crazy. I want to go back to something you said earlier, and I want to kind of make sure we get across the board here, and that's the economy. I want to, just on what you're seeing for 2025 on backlogs, kind of just your markets. What are some of the things that we're seeing? Josh, let's start on this side with you this time.
Yeah, so the only real concern I have, because the meeting we had, basically the entire allocation of shingles is sold for the year. That's how they go into the year. And with the environment that we have, we're getting all these storms, more and more storms, and being able to supply, what we need to build the jobs. So that's a challenge. And then on the economic side, just the uncertainty. Like somebody asked me a question, right? Who does? with what the policy and what things are going on, nobody knows. So the uncertainty piece for me is the trickiness.
Yeah.
If you give me the rule book or the manual, I can follow it and figure it out. If you don't know, then you don't know.
And it's kind of the don't know right now.
You don't know. Yeah.
And it's interesting because some people you talk to are just like, oh yeah, solid. Things are cruising. Other people are like soft. And I'm kind of like, where's this all coming from?
The demand is there. Like business is fine, but we don't know what's going to go on behind it and what could affect things.
And materials.
Yeah.
So for us, I mean, we're kind of like you. We're in a niche market, so there's not any one thing that we do. And that being said, what we're seeing in general is it's taking people longer to make decisions, which has been really interesting. Really interesting. I mean, typically, and it's not that they are even going with a low bid, it's just taking them longer to make decisions. So that has been a little bit of a challenge for laying out our business because we primarily do re-roofing, do everything we can to stay away from new construction, but we do some, which in new construction helps you plan your business a little bit better because they're going to build this job in the summer and the fall, blah, blah, blah. So, but because we do so much re-roofing, we're continuously just running right up to it to keep up, and so it's been a real challenge for us to see where the economy is going. We are seeing that people that have money are spending the money, but it's taking them longer to make those decisions, and then that's been probably the biggest thing that I've seen with the economy. And then some people with money are still not doing it. And I'm getting on projects that should have had a roof on them 10 years ago.
Right.
And they're still, and I'm like, this dude's got plenty of money. It's pretty obvious that he does. And they're just still not spending it.
It kind of goes with the whole uncertainty, right? They're like,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that sign that everything's going to be okay.
Fear of unknown is a real
When
thing.
the roof leaks, that was the sign.
Let's just go.
Yeah.
Well, it's frustrating, and I'm sure for you guys here because you have more good weather than you have bad, which is that way in Arizona. And so people will spend a fortune on landscaping and paint and stucco and all the things that make that building look beautiful. They won't spend a dime on the roof, and it
Protects it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really our tagline to so many places. It's, that $1 million painting you've got and all this computer isn't worth a dime if your roof leaks. I mean, it's just not.
Yeah.
And
You're right.
We're seeing something similar too. I mean, the buy cycle is double or triple what it used to be.
Wow.
Mainly, we're on the re-roofing side as well. We're seeing, because we work nationally, we're seeing an uptick in Texas, Georgia, and Florida, which I think you would expect. The number of projects bidding in Texas, we're not big on the new construction side. It's just crazy, the amount of growth. But the re-roofing side, you go through the election cycle. Every 4 years, it seems to be a little bit slower to get out of it. This time, I think it was different because I still think, half the country is not happy about what happened, right?
It's so divided.
And so even though the election's over and he's in office, doesn't mean that 50% of the people, 70 something million people, are still unhappy, and I don't think they're really convinced they're ready to spend the money yet.
Agreed.
And I used to joke around the office when we lost a job. It's okay, it's backlogged for 10 years. Well, maybe it's not anymore. Maybe it's backlogged in 15 years or 20 years because they're not putting the roofs on like they used to. And then the institutional buyers are getting smarter, and they're putting on more redundant 30-year systems. So it's really changing the marketplace. At least our marketplace has changed, just spec driven and by politically driven.
I think that is a great comment, Brad, that I haven't. We'll be hearing more about this on the coffee shop, because you're right. They're putting on, and we talk about it, right? We talk about it all the time. Put on durable, more redundant, more redundancy, more resiliency in the roofs. And don't think about that actually changing.
Well, it changes the life cycle. Right. And so I have one client, and he will not put on anything less than a 30-year 3-ply APP. Well, don't even talk to him about anything else. Like, you're really spending a lot of money, and his belief is, I cannot afford to be shut down from a hailstorm. We're in a hail market in Texas. Right?
Oh.
He's like, I don't care if it tears up the roof. I can't get water in the building.
Right.
And I'm going to design a system that's virtually bulletproof, and I'm going to pay more for it. And he builds that into his operating costs, right? But the chances that those buildings get hit by hail are pretty slim, though, even over that lifespan. And I'm not going to touch that roof for 30 more years.
Yeah, which is why the growth of service and maintenance is so important.
Yeah,
as we're going through that.
And we are definitely seeing that trend start to pick up. And I think that goes back to a changing culture, that the preventive maintenance, we've always sold the concept, you put oil in your car every 3,000 miles. Well, now it's like every 5,000 miles or whatever it is. I wish they would go back to 3,000 miles because it was easier to sell. But people are now starting to understand that you can extend the life of the roof. And we all make more money doing it. That everybody wins.
Absolutely.
Right? The buyer wins, the roofing company wins, and you build loyalty and that relationship that you work so hard to build. When you do go to re-roof it, they're not shopping price because they already know you maybe 2 or 3 or 5% more. That's not a deal breaker. What they know is they trust you. And if your roof is leaking at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to answer my phone, and they know that.
Right. And that's the key.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where the technology part has just, that I do agree with. So our estimator I hired back in September, he was big into drones, and I was kind of like, go away. I want to go. I used to have a boss way back when that he always said, you can never take the feel out of roofing. And so I've kind of ran with that forever. And so we started going out, and he started flying his drones around. And roofing, for the most part, but especially flat roofing, it's out of sight, out of mind. So, he's up there flying his bird over, and so now we're able to present that, and it's no longer out of sight, out of mind, because you can go, look at this picture. Your roof looks like crap, man. You need to do something.
Yeah, and you're servicing it. What are you seeing in the Midwest?
We're still seeing quite a lot of activity as far as needs for roofing right now, and it's all over the place. It's re-roofs, it's new construction, it's everything.
Yeah.
And I thought that it would come down by now. It's like COVID, the years post-COVID were really high because of, what we thought was pent-up demand. Well, where's it all coming from now? Or is our growth just growth because the increase in costs have made it seem like it's growth? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is it just inflation growth? Mm-hmm. But it's dollar growth. So how many dollars do we have to expect to grow just to keep up?
Right.
Like how many squares are we putting on is maybe a more accurate way to measure. Are we growing? Or
right.
how many hours did we work? Or, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's kind of easy to be like, oh yeah, look at all the dollars we sold. We're still doing great. Are we? But and I live in a fairly protected area. I'm not in a big city. I'm in the middle of the country. So I may not feel it as soon or as hard as other areas of the country. So that seems to be a thing for us. But I really think that roof restoration, maintenance, like you were saying, make it last longer. take better care of what we have. I think all of that is on trend.
Yeah.
And I think it will continue to trend. And I think that using your service department as a sales tool is really smart.
Yeah.
Like, this is how you start and keep a relationship of trust with a customer. And this is how you're there for them when they start going, well, I'm really not this tolerant of leaks.
Right.
And I really want like a new roof now. Or I think I can maintain this for this many more years, but at some point I want to start planning for replacement. And we want to be there for them during that time in the relationship, as well as all the way along the time when you need to be there for repairs and maintenance.
Back in the day, it used to be called negotiated work, and that meant you had that service and maintenance.
That napkin.
These people, and it was like that was all there. But now today, that is critical as we're doing it. I want to hit one topic because I can't believe this always goes so fast. But there's one topic that I think is really interesting between contractors and then looking manufacturers at distribution. But I want to talk about sustainability and how important, or what you're hearing from your customers about, do they care if it's recycled? Do they care if you're recycling? Are there laws, regulations, and things that are coming? So, Josh, let's start with you. But, is that affecting your business? And if not, talk to about a little bit about it.
It's really not. In Colorado, they're a little bit more conscious. So we're doing a decent amount of solar, the GF solar, trying to get into Certainty Solar in Ohio. I don't hear a ton about it. Now that we're part of this bigger entity, they have to do some sort of reporting on the emissions and different kind of random things that I didn't know anything about. So the larger you get, I guess there's different rules that kind of play into the sustainability and the environment. It's above what I understand, but we don't see a lot of it. No, we haven't had to really plan for it or do anything different. Colorado, you hear a little bit about it, but not in Ohio hardly at all.
That's interesting. It's industry and private equity.
Yeah.
They're bringing a lot of that in.
Yeah.
To say, hey, we have to look at our carbon footprint.
They did.
To be aware of what's going on. That's kind of a change.
And I think that's going to push down to some degree. The reporting, to me, I don't really understand it yet. But I'm sure to some capacity it'll come to us and then we'll have to figure it out. But.
Yeah. Ani.
So I agree. I mean, it hasn't affected our business at all. And every once in a while, somebody will bring it up. And we may see something on a university level. Is usually if you're doing a roof for a university, they tend to be a little more conscious about it. But then when you start, it's not cheap to do it. And so you start talking about recycling polyiso or trying to recycle modifieds or single ply, it's an added cost. And so as soon as you start talking about those costs, it just goes out the door. Nobody really is willing to spend that. And I think that would be a great thing to see if the manufacturers could find an easier, more economical way. I mean, you think about if you're in the coating business, which we are, all those buckets just a one and done use to just go right straight into the landfill, or even the 55-gallon barrel drums. And it's a lot of money to if you discard those drums in the right way. It's a lot of money, and to build those costs in, I've got a lot of friends in this business, and you go by their yards and they've got acres filled with drums from coating because they can't afford to get rid of them. So I think if some of the manufacturers could find better ways to sustain some of those products, that would be good.
Yeah.
Line the single ply up and find a way to use it.
Landfill costs, and some landfills are saying no, we're not going to take any, and so it's crazy. Brad, what are you seeing? Because you're across the country.
We're not seeing it anywhere, and mainly in Texas. I mean, it's just not happening.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It goes back to cost at the end of the day, and even the recycling in the communities is not as prevalent as it was even 2 or 3 years ago. The inline recycling that most of our communities around the country have, they're not using it anymore. And so, I mean, I think it's almost gotten cost prohibitive. But once you tell them it's going to cost you another $200,000 or whatever to recycle that, like, okay, we'll let the next guy be responsible for that, but let's put the roof on now.
Absolutely.
And it's not that they're brushing it aside, it's they're making an economic decision based on what they have to do or don't have to do. And it's not important to a lot of people.
Yeah. And we don't have it in a place where it's cost effective to me.
I mean, there's just nothing around here that's to recycle.
Yeah.
right? And it's just, I mean, I don't know how far we'd have to drive it to recycle it.
Right.
It's just not, I mean, not even shingles. I mean, I don't know if there's a
Nails.
No.
Yeah.
I feel like they've sort of debunked recycling. Like there's all these different, you know what I mean? It's like
It's a great idea, but in reality, it just doesn't seem very feasible or worthwhile right now. It's kind of a big picture thing.
Yeah.
It's like, don't we have a better place to spend our time and money? I mean, not that we don't care about the effects of what we do, but it's like there just doesn't seem to be a great way to do this
Yeah.
in this area right now.
So until somebody comes up with those solutions, it makes sense.
Right. It's not available.
Forced.
It's not available. It's not
Yeah.
feasible. It's not. I mean, you're gonna, like you were saying, you're gonna spend a bunch of money driving stuff somewhere and gas and other resources just to
carbon cook there, just driving it.
just become a bigger footprint
That's
just
hanging right?
because you're trying to recycle it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's just.
Yeah,
what's
it would have to be mandated, in my opinion, from the government down that says, "Hey, you, Mr. Roofing Manufacturer, you are going to do this." You know, you bottle manufacturer.
And if it's recyclable, will it be durable?
well, and that's just it, because they're going to write a spec. We're going to.
You know, is it going to disintegrate?
We had a client.
We are not
recycle.
government mandate for that.
No.
We had a client ask us to recycle the insulation. Like it's cost prohibitive. He said, put it in the parking lot and put a sign, take it and use it. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, that's recycling.
That's true.
Reusing the product.
What'd you say?
He asked us to take it off the roof and stack it in the parking lot with a sign that says free insulation. And
That's a great
2 or 3 days, it was all gone.
It was all like, there you go. Now,
That's a great idea.
That makes sense though, right?
Yes.
Maybe it's on ranches or whatever, but I mean, it actually went somewhere where somebody didn't put it in the landfill,
Right.
which ultimately is what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you put a green and a blue trash can right there, I guarantee you half the people would still throw a plastic bottle in the green.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what you said is absolutely right. It didn't dawn on me till you just said that. We just completed a project up at Grand Canyon Junction. We took all the ISO off the roof, and it was just stacked, waiting for the next dumpster to come in. And people just started coming up and go, "Hey, can we have that?" Sure. But out that area was a lot of ranches, so a rather rural community, and we ended up throwing hardly any of the leftover ISO away.
But that ultimately solves the
It was
problem.
gone. It did. I mean, when you...
The whole thing is confusing too, though. Like if you go to a Chipotle, there's like 4 buckets. Like the
Yeah,
fork
right.
goes in this one. What am I doing? So they make it very confusing to do it and execute it anyways. If you can't throw your Chipotle away, what are you going to do with a roof?
Yeah.
We got to mention this. Okay.
That's good.
Okay. So we are right towards the end of this. You have all been amazing. I would love just a real quick round robin of some advice you would have for contractors and manufacturers, whoever. Pick who you want. But some advice going into 2025 that you would share that you're looking at to help with your business and where you're going. I know it wasn't on the questions, and I know I'm throwing this out there, but Lori, any advice?
Work on your relationships with your employees and your customers. Look for training opportunities to train everyone to their highest level in your company or outside your company, wherever that is. Letting people that you care about them is also really good for people's mental health.
Yeah.
That can be very simple and takes a minute. And if you want to know how you're doing, you can count the smiles on people's faces as you walk around your company. You can see it. It does make a difference.
I love that. I love that, Brad.
So our focus is to train them to be our competition and treat them well enough to where they won't leave. And in 79 years, we have 78 people who've had over 20 years of service. And of those 78, 36 have over 30 years of service.
Wow.
So I think the fact that we treat them well enough, we retain them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That makes sense.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's right. That we have to treat our people great. Part of it is, and one of the questions you had too was just to talk about sub crews. That is a challenge with some of our people because they do want to leave and go have their own sub crews. But on the flip side of that, if we're taking care of them, they'll stay around. If they do leave, if we've trained them, if we've treated them right, the odds are that they're going to do the same thing. And then even if they start their own business and they become our competitor, at least we know what we've trained and we know that they're putting the roof on right, or at least have a better chance of them putting it on right.
That's a great way to think.
I think it goes back to what you guys were talking about professionalism. So what I tell our people is, if you were the most professional and they tell you you're the most professional and we lose, I'll live with that. So that idea of professionalism and making sure we are the most professional. When you do that, you're gonna win more often than not. But if they choose a cheaper guy, but you were still the most professional, it's fine. Take that guy.
I'm going to buy Josh a tie.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
I'll wear it.
I don't know. He has the fashion experience here. So I wanted to say thank you. Thank you to you all for your wisdom, your thoughts. It's just, and taking your time out an hour during the show to come spend with everybody out there. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching. Hey, tomorrow we'll be back again with manufacturers, distributors, and consultants, same time. We're going to ask the same questions and see what kind of conversation. All I know is this has been an amazing conversation with leaders in our industry. So stay tuned. Also, be sure to check out all of our coffee conversations on Roofers Coffee Shop and all the coffee shops to see what's happening, watching the trends, because we have a lot going on and we're going to keep it coming your way. Stay tuned. We have a lot more interviews coming up the rest of the day and all week. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time on Coffee Conversations.